Hi, my name is Jason Gomes. These are some thoughts about the universe. So, the universe is a pretty complicated place, and they've been working on string theory for a long time. And here's some thoughts that I have to add, and I just want to start with that nice, pretty picture. So, here's a picture of, like the faux universe. It's just imagining a picture of the universe. And when you look closely at the universe through quantum physics, they have the quark model, right? So you have these 6 different quark types, and then you have the 3 primaries that result in a bunch of different variations that give you different kinds of atomic structures. This right here is the basic concept for the atomic structure. So the reason why I'm showing you this is because I'm going to come back to it in a little bit. So the very first thing to think about is the fact that we started off in a void. This is a video about sonoluminescence, if you'd like to look that up. But basically inside this sphere, which is a closed loop, you have sound that creates varying pressures. Now, because the water itself can't expand or contract, all of the energy is actually transferred to the gaseous form of atmosphere inside the bubble. So all the heat and all of the vibration is actually seamlessly transferred throughout the entire water body into the center. So the thing to keep in mind is that the water itself is actually pulsating, and you just notice it in the very center where all of the pulsations are concentrated. And you can hear that light and intense amounts of heat are being generated. So the idea is that when you look at light is being created by implosion of sound. That's why atomic weapons are so bright. So when you look at the universe, you have these implosive fields, and within them, each of these larger bodies, you have black holes like this right here, which essentially are implosive fields that are pulling in the entire gravitational field of the galaxy, right? Well, what they recently discovered is that these black holes are pulsating, which causes basically resonance patterns or resonance fields within the entirety of space-time. So here's a real brief example of a resonating plate. So at the center of that, what you're actually seeing is the waveform that is caused by the interference. Because of the fact that the universe has an outer layer, as energy is emitted from the center, it goes to the outer layer and then reflects back inward. So the energy of the universe essentially is emanating from the out, and then in the 8th dimension of the universe, which is just spatial heat, it's trapped and then pulled back in. The thing that's very interesting about space is that we expect there to be no energy in the void of space, but the entire volume of space, the lowest temperature recorded is about 4 degrees above absolute freezing, which doesn't seem like a lot, but when you consider the fact that the universe is 100 billion light years across, well, when you start calculating the volume, you're talking about 100 billion cubed times 4/3 is the volume of the universe. So when you're talking about hundreds of quadrillions of light years, cubic light years, that are operating at a temperature of 4 degrees above freezing, well, that's actually an enormous amount of energy, which is the reason why we live in an endless universe. So we're basically swimming in huge amounts of heat energy, which create all the flowing patterns within the universe under the surface, just like you have flowing patterns underneath the surface of your body and your blood. So as these resonance fields create implosion, they create rotation. While implosive rotation creates gyroscopic precession or gyroscopic torque. So when you look at exactly what's happening in that situation, that's actually what Einstein was explaining with E equals mc squared. Because when you take gyroscopic precession to its absolute limits, you get a quasar. And a quasar is a black hole that is essentially warping space-time, so that this light being ejected is actually space-time being warped into a funnel. So at the center of that, you can actually see there's a black hole which is creating the accretion disk and then the quasar beam itself. So when you look in at this here, this is a Mobius strip, which is a one-sided, one-edged piece of paper, and you also notice it's the infinity symbol. So it's very, very commonly recognized. Well, when you turn this into a figure 8, right, and you rotate this through time, you actually get a funnel, right? You get a vortex. And that's actually the other name for the Mobius strip, is a twisted cylinder. So you have these twisted cylinders, and this is an example of one that's been twisted up a whole bunch. So you saw on the quark model, you have the three primaries, which is the red, blue, and the green. Between red and green, you get yellow. Between blue and green, you get cyan. And between blue and red, you get violet. So those are the masculine, right? The north field and then the south field that arises out of those. And then in between them, in the balanced areas, you get these additional potential traits. So the idea is that what you're looking at is actually 8 circles. You'd have 1, 2, and then 3, 4, and then 5, 6, and then 7, and then 8, which is like on the top. So that's where you get 8 dimensions, creating a full loop, right? Well, once you have all 8 of these circles, at the very center here, where all of these circles are touching but not overlapping, you get the 9th dimensional field, or the field of energy that is a result of the first 8 fields combined. So when you look at the 8 fields of reality in our universe, you'd have the Mobius strip would create the basic, right, which would be the atom, and then the relatively larger atom would be the universe itself. So if you think of atoms as being miniature bubbles, the universe would be the larger bubble that is containing all of the smaller bubbles and their reflections. So you have your galaxies, you have your solar systems. So galaxies are being held together by black holes. The solar system is rotating around the black hole and is actually generating the heliosphere, which is the solar system's magnetic field. So outside of the heliosphere, you actually get a collection of ice crystals, which is called the Oort cloud, which gets pulled in and then sent back out as they evaporate from the sun, and they hit other planets on their way out of the solar system. So they get pulled in the solar system by the gravitational well of the sun, and then by its heat, they expand back out to where they get into the Oort cloud and they freeze again. So this is a cycle of the solar system. The planetary body, the ionosphere, which is the total electrical potential of the planet. It's the magnetic field that keeps the atmosphere in place. It keeps the water on the surface, and within the water and within the atmosphere, you get circulation, just like you get the circulation in the heliosphere, just like you get the circulation in the galaxy. And then from the multicellular perspective, you have a cellular circulatory system. So whether you're talking about plants or animals, they all cellularly circulate energy within the total structure that allows them to live. And then you have the cellular body, which is essentially through osmosis. So as the cell sits there, it essentially absorbs energy from its environment in order to satisfy, the cycles that it has. And then the DNA is actually electromagnetism. Now, they've actually shown that DNA is electromagnetically sensitive or light sensitive. That's how they actually activate DNA. So the takeaway is that your body, your heart, is producing an electromagnetic field. So is your brain. And your DNA is electromagnetically sensitive, meaning focus and intention of energy thought allows us to activate dormant traits within ourselves that allow us to do things that might not otherwise be possible. So the idea that gyroscopic torque is actually what's explaining equals mc squared. Because when you create torque according to the right hand rule, right? So if it's spinning this way, that means that the torque being generated, like that. So the torque is actually going this way. So as if this thing weighed nothing, as it spins, it would actually move forward. It would move forward through time. And if it spins any slower than the speed of light, well, then the Mobius strip would no longer look like a particle. So it has to spin at the speed of light, because as it spins this way and it spins this way, it creates the illusion of something that's round and solid. And as it spins this way, it creates propulsion. So it moves through space, which is why a photon moves through space and has no mass, is because the fact that it has no mass is the reason why it's spinning, because the gyroscopic torque. So as you max that out, that's where you get a black hole, quasar, where essentially energy isn't escaping from the black hole, but the warp in space-time creates energy flowing away from and into the black hole. So like in the north, it would be moving, it would be funneling together in, and then it's moving out and expanding. And then down here, it's funneling inward and it's compressing. So looking at it from the outside, the line is just moving in a single direction, right? It's not circulating like you would expect to see a magnetic field in a planet or in a solar system. So when you look at all this, understanding that this is creating the atomic structure as well as it's folding in all 7 dimensions, right? Because you have the atoms in the universe, well, they're just reflections, right? And a small bubble reflecting a larger bubble, so they're identical copies. And in between that, you have galaxies, solar systems, planetary bodies, the multicellular bodies, the cellular body, and the DNA. So you have a total of 7 days or dimensions of rotation, which give rise to the full scope of animal and plant life. So that's kind of more like the scientific. Well, from the philosophical standpoint, is you have the yin and yang here, right? So you have the yang traits, which are masculine. You have the yin traits, which are feminine. So the first trait would be the heart. So the heart is connected to the universe, and it's the center of personal harmony, aka your pulse. So the red chakra would be body, accepts energy that is produced by the heart and ensures fuel and health of the heart, meaning acceptance and survival. Your body is able to accommodate your heart's needs, and it's also able to ensure your heart's survival. And the third one here, dark blue, is essentially the imagination. It's where wisdom comes from. So the mind accepts and filters the information of the universe like an invisible membrane, kind of like a cellular membrane uses osmosis in order to gather information from its environment. So then out of these, you have the yin traits, which are essentially like the south field, right? So this would be a north field, this would be a south field, and then this would be a neutral field in between. So you have the information is understood as being helpful between the imagination and the emotions, which is communication, right? Imagination and determination or emotion, you get communication. And then over here, you have universal connection, right? Which is between imagination and acceptance. So accepting everything surviving is universal. So it's information and energy awareness on a universal scale that utilizes the imagination. So the breath is often forgot about just because you're just doing it all the time, but it supplies nearly all the energy and empowerment for the body. So those are, your will and your universal connection. And when you create a balance between these, you get the hybrid traits. So the hybrid traits are compassion, creation, empowerment, inspiration, visionary, and spirituality. So compassion is between universal harmony and survival, which basically it's the ability to gracefully care for the universe, right? Creation is the ability to create circumstances and technology as well as art and culture, and unlimited energy combined with acceptance and survival is really what's at the heart of creation. Empowerment is energy that's fed directly from the heart and universal will. So empowering yourself and others to act on their heart's highest intention. Inspiration is between communication and heart, so chartreuse is which is empowerment between will and heart here. And then inspiration is basically energy that harmonizes the effectiveness of communication and emotion. It's incorporating emotion into reality in a way that empowers communication. And then here you have visionary, which is between communication and imagination. So basically that's charismatic communication that expands the imagination of yourself as well as others and helps create shared vision. So spirituality is the capacity to imagine the energy of life and the shared nature of all beings. So it's your imagination and universal connection. So it's like you can imagine the energy as it flows through all life. And that's kind of the basic concept. It's one of the things that I would like to start teaching more of and bringing more to light. And if you'd like to know more about this subject right here, this is actually the seed of life and the flower of life. And also cymatics is about the study of sound moving through matter. So Mobius strip is the name of that right there, if you wanted to look it up. And any questions, comments, or feedback would be awesome.